absolutes. In the end, it all comes down to our attitudes towards these realities of good and evil, freedom and enslavement. History has shown us that even when men are forcibly chained and incarcerated, they can still be free inwardly, in their minds and in their hearts. Whatever the future brings, this is the important thing to remember.
So my part of this first DVD was to make the graphics and the animations, also the music, to make and to add the music, and to cut or edit the film. And then of course to weave everything together in one coherent movie, so you can sit down and enjoy the film. And the style of the animation was consciously chosen. We wanted to have something that really replicated an effect of something that's very dreamy or very kind of free-flowing in a way. And this is more of this is so much more than just presentation of information. We wanted to have a kind of an artistic feel to the entire film as well. A little bit more like a music video, actually, in one way. Maybe not a pop music video, but something that you can potentially sit down and watch without the dialogue. So you should be able to enjoy it just for the graphics, for the imagery, for the animation, and for the music as one. But then when you combine all of these things, of course, all these three elements, you come up with a very interesting and very kind of powerful way of communicating a message, which is more beyond just structured information per se. It speaks more to the right brain, and it can help to convey messages on multiple levels as well, because the same idea applies with movies like Koya no Katse, for instance, where they actually have the entire movie without any spoken words, but you still can see a very powerful message in there being conveyed. So that's what we really wanted to go for here, follow along in the dialogue that Michael has in a very free-flowing way, and that's also why you see the transitions are very kind of translucent, they're more interwoven. Not in all cases, but in most cases it's not rough cuts like that. It's to present that idea of just going with the flow in a way. And this is also a film I think that where you really can sit down and watch any chapter of it, and you don't have to see the previous one or the chapter before in order to follow along in the story as it goes along. Then we have this area with excerpts from other movies. We have clips from TV series and other documentaries, of course, too. And this is a very good way for us to use to, for one, kind of go away a little bit from the main storyline, and to go off on a tangent for a little while and then come back to the main story. But that is also there for the reason or for the purpose to convey a message, obviously, a conscious message to underline something that is being said in the dialogue, or to emphasize it, or to show something similar that people might be able to relate to in another way. So you can use a clip as almost like a symbol or something that represents something powerfully. So that's why we wanted to have a few clips in there as well, and excerpts to go off on tangents and to emphasize points even more. And it's also that idea that you, in order to create an image of the world, basically, that we're all trying to do, trying to understand reality, you need rather to dip into your own pool of the films that you've seen or the documentaries that you've seen, and that's what kind of helps you to create a worldview, basically. And then we have this other area with the music that was really interesting for me to do music to a 2-hour-long documentary. I haven't done music for such a long project before. And the classical things can be said about the music, of course. You need a little bit more upbeat music tunes, and then you need a bit more atmospheric or melancholic tunes at times. And that's the same thing message there. It needs to be emphasizing the dialogue, of course, go along with that. Sometimes you need a bit more pulse in it and a little bit more upbeat to take you on that little bit of roller coaster journey, and sometimes you need just more atmospheric sounds rather than music with melodies and stuff in there. And one thing that can be said about the music, of course, is that we haven't chosen any other person's music and just bunged it in there. We have actually made the music ourselves, and I think that that's another powerful way of doing it, where you can communicate something with the music as well. So overall, what can be said about the project is that it's very rich, both in graphics but also in music, and the dialogue to add that up, or to underline the music, and the graphics should underline the dialogue. And in some cases, the graphics or the animation might cut off to a little bit of different area, and maybe not just be contextual to the dialogue that is that Michael is speaking, but it also goes off on a tangent and shows something else, so you can kind of communicate on multiple levels at the same time. So that's really interesting. And then, of course, the thing about that it's also an art form. Film should be can be an artistic expression as well, not only to, as I said before, just convey information per se, but this is a kind of blending of all different genres. You can have it more artistic, more like an artwork really than just information. But again, when you blend all the 3 different things that you have there, and you bring in sound effects and music and graphics and then the dialogue, you end up with an interesting mix. Because in many cases, not all documentaries, but many documentaries are kind of, not that they're heavy, but they can be a bit cold. It's not a storytelling, or they're not warm or have a kind of an artistic expression to it, because they're just about the information per se. But since we don't have any obligations to anyone else, we're independent, we can do whatever we want to do with this. We can basically explore all the different arenas, and this was one way of doing it, and a very interesting way of doing it. And it helps to emphasize the point again that you can just put this on at any place and enjoy it for what it is, either for the information, because it's interesting and it's important information and it's empowering, but at the same time you can enjoy it as a animated, almost like a music video type thing. And another thing that is very powerful, of course, is to use this technique of communicating on multiple levels, if you will, of using graphics and imagery and even speaking on a symbolic level. It's not so much maybe that you're hiding things subtextually or anything like that, and that doesn't really occur in this movie. It's more like it's very rich in the imagery, so you can watch it several times over, and you're always going to discover something new. It's just not one image that is up there that's contextual, but it's sometimes multiple frames, sometimes it's images interwoven and whatnot. But also this idea of communicating on many different levels, that's something that the big guys use at the top of the pyramid, so to speak. These boys who know how to speak to both of the brain, the hemispheres of the brain, and communicate to you on multiple levels. And it's not really their arena, so to speak. Anyone can use these tools in order to empower people instead of bringing negative messages to people. So that's one area that is very interesting to explore and can really help to emphasize the points you want to get across, but use it for a positive purpose instead of using it in a subversive manner, or try to bringing in a negative or an occult or hidden message in there.
Yeah, I mean, it's very important for people to realize that what we're creating is not something that's meant to make you okay with the status quo. You know, it's not designed to make you roll over and go to sleep and say, well, okay, you know, make me feel good, you know, ruffle my feathers, you know, make me feel fuzzy and warm about what's going on. It's important to laugh. We get a lot of criticism sometimes. They go, oh, you guys are so serious, you know, you take everything so seriously, everything's so pessimistic. First of all, it's not true. And I accept and know the importance of laughter and humor, you know, and to take everything, to take certain things seriously and other things not so seriously. But at the same time,